So I've had this three-legged hall table in the shed for a while, and I have made it my goal to try and get through some of these things I've got building up. All these projects that I have plans for. So this piece had a bit of damage. The old finish was failing, and there was some damage with the boards underneath. So the first job was going to be to get it nice and strong again. Get off some of this dust. Look at that movement. So I got as much glue down in that gap as I possibly could. Got it all clamped up, and I was trying to make sure that I clamped them straight and didn't pull one lower or higher than the other. And then got some fresh screws in there to lock it all in place. So you can see I'm using a bigger drill bit there. That's to make a little bit of a space so that the screw would be nice and flush. Countersunk that down in there. One on the other side. And then that finish was coming off the legs really, really easily. I was just lightly going down with the carbide scraper, and that was all just coming off, which was awesome. It always helps to get as much of the old finish off as possible with the carbide scraper to save on sandpaper, and it's much faster. And then used up the last of my citrus strip on the top of the piece. Citrus strip gets a bit of a bad name sometimes, but I find it works awesome. So spread it around nice and thick, cover it with some cling foil, and then I had a friend turn up, so that was good. Had a cup of coffee and a catch-up while that was sitting, and then when I came back it was all ready to scrape clean. So I definitely needed to use stripper for the top of this piece, and the sides, the finish was a lot thicker, and I didn't want to damage it with the carbide scraper. It's so satisfying to see that finish just peel away. I'm not sure why they use so much stain and lacquer on these old pieces of furniture, because it really hides the beautiful grain underneath. So then I just went in with some acetone to scrub away any residue from the stripper and any last bits of finish. So I had to do a quick trip to the shop to get some more stripper, and they didn't have any citrus strip in stock, so I had to get one that I've never used before. So fingers crossed it works well. The tricky thing is Mrs. Chicken was under my feet this entire time, and she is ready and waiting to peck at anything that falls on the floor, and the last thing I wanted her to get in her mouth was some of this horrible chemical stripper. So it was a little bit nerve-wracking actually trying to catch every little bit in my container. But the new stripper worked great, so on to sanding. The drawer front was easy. There was a lot of details to do though. It's always a lot of sanding, bringing these pieces back, but it's really rewarding when you get it, just see that wood grain, so clean and perfect. See, look at Mrs. Chicken. Any sawdust, anything, she's in there wanting to have a taste. She's crazy. And my mouse sander is on its last legs. But with a foam pad and a fine grit sandpaper, it gets into every nook and cranny so well, so I might have to look at buying myself a new one day. Checking that I've got everything by applying some acetone, and that just shows me if I've got any sanding marks or if there's any old finish left that I need to deal with. So lots of hand sanding. getting in all those nooks and crannies. At this point, I wasn't sure. I was thinking that maybe I would paint this bottom lip a colour to give it some contrast, but honestly, it was all in perfect condition, so I just continued to sand, and get it all back to absolute original. So now I'm just feeding this wood grain with some oil. So this just soaks right into the wood, bringing it back to life. And look at that wood grain. So this is mahogany, so it doesn't have a very consistent grain to it. You can see these mountain peaks, and it's just such an interesting, it reminds me of boiled sweets, boiled lollies. So then while that's drying overnight, I thought I'd get onto this hardware, get that all scrubbed back. And so then I didn't want it to just be a plain hall table. And I was thinking, do I stencil the shape of the mountain? Do I paint the shape of the mountain? Do I do an outline and just in gold? So I was really humming and hawing for a while. And then I decided to just go with a simple wood dye so that it was a very subtle silhouette across the front. So there's Mount Taranaki and the Puakai Ranges. At this point, I was still like, do I go over the outline with just a really thin gold strip? But no, I am putting a top coat on. I've decided to just leave it just nice and subtle. Mrs. Chicken still keeping an eye on things. So this looks really high gloss to start with while it's wet, but it's just a nice satin finish. So I put multiple coats of varnish on with a light sand in between each coat. Put that hardware back on. Oiled it all inside as well, and here's the finished piece. Smooth as a baby's bum. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. And if you do like watching these before and after kind of videos, like and subscribe.